Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex P. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Thursday, May 21st. Ian Cameron with you. Solo edition today. Alex getting his equipment replaced, if you will, headset. He'll be back tonight with us on the betcast for our Patreon members. And speaking of our betcast tonight, exclusively for our Patreon members, it is tonight, and it is for Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final between the Montreal Canadiens and the Carolina Hurricanes. Make sure you join us 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time tonight. Game 1, Patreon exclusive, Ice Guys live betcast for Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final, Habs versus Canes. You must be a Patreon member to tune into the betcast and to be on the stream with us on the betcast. So make sure, if you're not a Patreon member already, you get on board for just $10 per month, patreon.com/iceguys. Looking forward to it. Game 1 live betcast for the Eastern Conference Final tonight with the Montreal Canadiens and Carolina Hurricanes. Before we get into that series, we'll obviously, just like with yesterday, with Vegas, Colorado, we'll tee up series bets and then get into Game 1 specifically when it comes to the Habs and the Canes. But we'll begin looking back at a very, very solid road win for the Vegas Golden Knights last night in Game 1 of the Western Conference Final against the Colorado Avalanche. That was the formula, and that was the blueprint for the Vegas Golden Knights to win games in this series and potentially win this series over the Colorado Avalanche. Last night was the perfect display of how they're going to do it. They're going to do it by being steady enough defensively. They're going to be opportunistic and capitalize on chances when they get it. Their power play is going to come through for them when they get opportunities with the man advantage, and they were able to do that last night. And, of course, the biggest factor, the goaltending of Carter Hart, which was absolutely tremendous last night. They've got to get not just good, they have to get great goaltending in this series from Carter Hart to be competitive with Colorado and have a chance to win this series, and they absolutely got that last night. And then some from Carter Hart, who was brilliant in net for the Vegas Golden Knights as they defeat the Colorado Avalanche 4-2 in Game 1. Now, it got a little too close for comfort down the stretch, but Vegas ended up hanging on thanks to, what an effort, by the way, by Nick Dowd on the empty net goal, negating the icing, getting to that loose puck first, and then being able to put it away into the empty net. It was just a really solid, sound road game for Vegas. I thought in the first period, first couple shifts, Colorado was just pressing and really taking it to Vegas. They had a couple of, in the first 5 minutes, it was all Colorado, and Carter Hart had to come up big early in that game. But eventually they stemmed the tide. They settled down. They didn't let that wave after wave Colorado attack keep rolling like it did early in the game. Vegas started to settle in a bit. And then, of course, they ended up getting the first goal 12 minutes into the second period from an unlikely source, Dylan Coghlan, who, by the way, John Tortorella really sung the praises of the way he's defended for the Vegas Golden Knights since he's been in their lineup, saying he's taken away the gaps. He's not really giving opposition time and space. Really was praising Coghlan's efforts defensively. And then to see him be able to chip in a goal and get Vegas the first goal of the game, the first goal of the series last night is a bonus when you get that from Dylan Coghlan. The Pavel Dorofeyev power play goal after that. What a feed that was by Mitch Marner to Pavel Dorofeyev on that power play goal to make it 2-0 in the second period. And then our guy, come on, we had to take him last night. He was the clear, I said it, he was the clear choice on the Vegas side for bargain bin special of the night in Game 1. Brett Howden, he just keeps on rolling. He gets a big 3-0 goal for the Vegas Golden Knights early in the third period. We cashed the bargain bin special of the night with him at plus 370 to find the back of the net last night. And then, of course, but Colorado wasn't going to go away quietly. You knew that. Big Val Nichushkin makes it 3-1. Gabe Landeskog, what an incredible, by the way, talk about a great feed by Marner. How about the feed by McKinnon? How about the play by McKinnon to, stop at the sideboard, stop on a dime, pivot, and then just feed that backhand to Landeskog in front for the 3-2 goal to give Colorado a puncher's chance late. Just an outstanding individual effort by McKinnon there. And then, of course, though, Nick Dowd puts it away into the empty net. Carter Hart did have to make a couple of really nice saves when it was 3-2 and the Avalanche had the extra attacker looking to tie the game. But nice job by the Vegas Golden Knights hanging on and getting the Game 1 victory. Look, we need to give praise to the Vegas Golden Knights. There's no question. Obviously, Marner had another great game. He got an assist, obviously, on the Dorofeev goal. Dorofeev with a goal. His hot scoring continues. Brett Howden, of course. I thought it was a solid game for Michael. But Shea Theodore, you're absolutely right. He was terrific last night. Benji saying that in the chat. Both ends of the ice. Moving the puck defensively. Blocking shots. Just doing everything it took to win last night. And Shea Theodore knows that there's, not last night. He didn't play, obviously, Cale Makar. But, eventually we think we're going to see Cale Makar back in this series. And certainly if you're Colorado, you hope he's going to be back in this series. That's who you're up against at the other side. One of the elite defensemen in the NHL. You've got to up your game. You got to step things up. And there's no question Shea Theodore did that last night for the Vegas Golden Knights. Yeah, it didn't last long with the McKinnon goal in every game. Did have a couple chances last night, but did not find the back of the net. It was the first time in 7 games he had not scored for the Vegas Golden or for the Colorado Avalanche. But Vegas full mark. I think you got to give them full marks. Now, if you look at the advanced numbers last night, it'll say, well, Colorado had more of the expected goal share. Well, of course they did. They outshot Vegas 38-28. I think they were probably in the Vegas zone more often than vice versa. They they're supposed to control the flow, especially at home, and they did that. But what was missing from Colorado last night, and this goes to them missing, it goes back to them being without Cale Makar, the offensive precision, especially with the power play. You could tell they were just a step slow in moving the puck, reading the play, reading the penalty kill coverage by the Golden Knights, and just that little step slow makes it easier to defend against you. And the one thing they miss about Cale Makar, he's a great skater, great puck mover, can shoot the puck, great defensively, but he reads the play quickly. And bam, he sees something, he makes a play, he makes a pass, he shoots the puck, and he does it quickly. Doesn't hesitate, doesn't fart around. He makes a play quickly. It makes a decision quickly. Okay, with all due respect to Devon Taves, with all due respect to Sam Malinsky and anyone else on that Avalanche blue line, they don't have the decision-making time just to see something and make a decision with the puck right away. Shoot, pass, see the ice like Makar. None of them can do that. None. And we even saw on occasion last night when they were on the power play. And Sam Malinsky, for example, specifically, he's doing the best he can. It's not easy. You're trying to replace Cale Makar. That's not an easy thing to do because he's just so incredible. And it's such a big factor on that blue line. But if you're Sam Malinsky, everything was telegraphed last night. Really. And it's almost like Vegas knew what he was going to do before Sam Malinsky knew. And then he was just, didn't hit the net enough. He had opportunities where he shot the puck and didn't hit the net enough. There was one, down the stretch there. I mean, there's basically Vegas player right in the shooting lane to block the shot. And instead of a shot fake and try to get around him, try to make a pass to a teammate, he just shoots the puck right into a pair of shin pads and it goes the other way for Vegas. It's just those things, that's when you notice it. Whoa, is Cale Makar doing that when he's walking the blue line, trying to make something happen? Probably not. He's probably going to make something happen there. Get around the shot blocker, make a pass, shoot around him, not just shoot it. You see him clearly in the lane and you shoot it right into where he's into shin pads where he's blocking it. It's just that's what you noticed last night. It's just the decision making, the reaction time of your Malinskys and your Taves, and I like Taves, but even he doesn't have the reaction time of a Cale Makar. You cannot replicate that. What Cale Makar can do. And I think when you look at this situation, it's a big loss, and they're going to need him back at some point. Now, can Colorado win games in this series without Cale Makar? Of course they can. And last night they didn't play that terribly. I just thought they didn't play that terribly. They outshot Vegas. The goals share, all of that points to the advanced numbers favoring Colorado last night. But if you watched the game, you could see that they were struggling with just crisp, clean, solid execution offensively. And that's something that Cale Makar would greatly help. And it's something that maybe you lack a little bit of when he's not in the lineup. And we saw that. And look, they had chances. They didn't execute. They didn't convert enough. Vegas was opportunistic where they had fewer chances, fewer glorious opportunities, but they did convert on those, Vegas, at a better opportunity than Colorado. So, like I said, there you go. All 6 Malinsky shots were blocked. Not to mention that, Jonathan, it's not just that they were all blocked, but missed nets too. Like he missed the net a couple of times. So, his accuracy left a lot to be desired. So, it's just a sign that, Cale Makar has missed. And now this is a storyline now. Not only has Vegas won the first game and at least temporarily taken home ice advantage away from Colorado, but now the specter of Cale Makar's status looms even larger going into game 2 on Friday night. And, not a great showing from a betting standpoint for me. The highlight was cashing Brett Howden, obviously, the bargain bin special. We did actually have Vegas team total over 2.5. I bet both team totals last night, Colorado's and the Vegas team total. So we did hit the Vegas team total. We lost the first period over. We did push on the full game over and the best bet over 6. It landed obviously right on 6-4-2 Vegas final score. So not a great betting result last night, but hey, we'll take it. And, and we'll move on and we'll see what we do with game 2 tomorrow night. We'll save that, of course, for tomorrow's show. Let's turn our attention to tonight, game 1 of the Eastern, the series first with series bets, and then we'll get to game 1. But series bets, Eastern Conference Final, Montreal Canadiens, Carolina Hurricanes, Carolina minus 280, series favorites. I know Carolina's 8-0 in the playoffs. 4-game sweep over Ottawa, 4-game sweep over Philadelphia in the first 2 rounds. But at the same point in time, I think they're going to get tested here by Montreal. Now, I don't know. I'm not going to say Montreal's winning the series, but I think Montreal will be a greater test for Carolina in this series. And I've taught myself into 6-7 game box here, just like I did with Vegas, Colorado, and just like I did with Buffalo, Montreal in the second round, and Vegas, Anaheim in the second round, and Montreal, Tampa Bay in the first round. That I think Montreal's got enough. They've got enough magic, karma, momentum right now going into this series. And look, I don't think it's the be-all, end-all that Montreal went 3-0 in the regular season against Carolina. There were some factors that made it a little bit, easier to play Carolina in those times. Carolina did have injuries throughout the year, at various times. And playoffs are a different animal. We've seen so many elements of Carolina's game be so much better, stronger here in the playoffs than in the regular season. So you cannot just be prisoner of, wow, Montreal went 3-0 against Carolina in the regular season. That's got to mean that's going to carry over here into the playoffs. But at the same point in time, it's a nice thing to have in your back pocket if you're Montreal, knowing, hey, we can compete with this team and we can play with this team, and we've shown we can beat this team. Now, it's going to be harder to do that now because of the way Carolina was playing in the first 2 rounds. Absolutely sensational. The way they close time and space, the way they defend, the way they check, their penalty kills outstanding. And it's going to be much tougher sledding for Montreal to just, move that puck around with your Hudsons and your Caulfields and your Slavkovskis when they have the man advantage against this outstanding Carolina penalty kill. There's no question it's going to be much harder than it was against Buffalo and Tampa Bay for them. But there's something about the guts, the heart, the grit, the fight, the battle in this Montreal team. Now, the gas tank does worry me here in this series as it goes on. The benefit of Carolina sweeping the first 2 rounds is that as this series goes on, and if we get into the deeper waters of the series, you could see a legitimate energy advantage for Carolina and a freshness advantage for Carolina. They've only played 8 playoff games so far. Montreal's played 14. They've had to go the distance. 7 games against Tampa, 7 games against Buffalo. And eventually later in this series, that could add up, that finally a physical wall, Montreal might hit it, after playing back-to-back 7-game series. Whereas Carolina, fresh as a daisy, they've only played 8 games, and it's not like they had to go through a wall against the Flyers or the Senators either. in those first two series. But I still think Montreal's good enough as a team to make Carolina sweat, to make Carolina work here in this series. So I'm going to go with the 6 games and the 7 games, both at plus 200 or better. We're going to go, again, Carolina to win the series 4-2, 4-3, Montreal to win the series 4-2, 4-3, all at plus money. And all we need is the series to go 6. We're going to make profit out of it. As far as player props here for the series, that is, I think there's a lot that stand out. Let's go to the over-under goals first. For Carolina, Jackson Blake to me over 1.5 goals at minus 110. I like it. Taylor Hall for Carolina over 1.5 goals plus 100 in this series. I like it. For Montreal, now as he's got to cool off at some point. Maybe this is the series that's going to happen, but I don't like just assuming that there's going to be a fall off for Alex Newhook. And you're being offered plus 115 for Alex Newhook to get over 1.5 goals in this series. So at that price, I'm in. And another one I like for Montreal here in this series, he was you could tell his confidence slowly starting to come back for the Montreal Canadiens. He's going to have to be a guy that he's got a great shot. He really does. Now he's missed the net too much in these playoffs with that great shot. But when he's got that shot on point, he can do damage with it. And we saw it on that one-timer that he scored in Game 6 of the Buffalo series on the power play. He's got to have a big offensive series. Not easy against the way this Carolina team, the way they defend, the way Freddie Anderson's been playing in these playoffs. But I think at plus 115, it's great value and a great price on Ivan Demidov at plus 115 for over 1.5 goals in this series. I think I think for Montreal, that's my favorite series-long goal prop in this series is Ivan Demidov to get over 1.5 goals at plus 115. I think he's capable of 2 goals in this series. He had a chance, 1,000,001 chances. It felt like, not only in the Buffalo series but in the Tampa Bay series as well. So yeah, Demidov over 1.5 goals plus 115. Liking that quite a bit here in this series. Jonathan making the case for Lane Hudson plus 700 as far as over 1.5 goals in this series. Problem is that guy refuses to shoot the puck half the time. I thought he was doing a better job with that. I'm going to play it safer with Hudson and go just to get 1 goal in the series at plus 100. That's the one I bet, but I don't mind it because, look, he's got to realize, be selfish, because people know you're a pass-first defenseman, especially on the power play. And Carolina, you don't think Rod Brind'Amour, who's had fucking 2 weeks to get ready for this series, isn't going to know exactly every tendency of Lane Hudson? You need your head examined if you don't think he's going to know coming into this series. Had 2 weeks to get ready. He was saying last week he was preparing for both Buffalo and Montreal. They were already looking at. Lane Hudson's got to know. Carolina, when he has the puck on his stick, they're going to play the pass because they're not going to be thinking he's going to shoot the puck. This is a series where Lane Hudson's going to have to say to himself, you know what? If they've covered the pass, if they're taking away the outlet, if they're taking away the other option, one of my teammates, when I have the puck in the offensive zone, be it 5-on-5 at even strength or on the power play, I need to shoot the puck more. And I've got to commit to shooting the puck more. That's what he's going to have to do. Now, will he do it is another question entirely, but he's going to have to try to commit to that here in this series. So I'm not as bold with this as Jonathan, but I did bet Lane to get a goal, just 1 goal in the series at plus 100. But the one I like the most, like I said, I like Demidov over 1.5 goals plus 115. I like Blake at minus 110 over 1.5 goals. Taylor Hall because that line, again, they're not going away. There's no way Rod Brind'Amour is breaking them up. Not the way they played in the first 2 rounds. Taylor Hall, Logan Stankoven, and Jackson Blake. So, and by the way, I'm actually going to bet I did bet Logan Stankoven over 2.5 goals in the series at plus 135. So those are a lot of the main goal scorer props. I mean, you would like to think that the Aho, Svechnikov, Jarvis group has to come alive at some point and have just a big-time series for Carolina offensively. They haven't had it in the first 2 rounds, obviously. It's been mostly Hall, Stankoven, Blake. That group's been getting the job done, sprinkled in with a little Jordan Stahl, Martin Nuke, Ehlers have chipped in a little bit here and there as well during the series. But like I said, I think eventually they could get going, but I kind of want to see it before I believe it. So I didn't get involved too much with Svechnikov, with Jarvis, with Aho, as far as their particular props going into this series against Montreal. I'm just rocking more with the line that's been getting it done, that's been dominating, that's been a force, offensively in the offensive zone for most of the playoffs. And of course, that has been Stankoven, Hall, and Blake for the Carolina Hurricanes. Jake, it's funny. You start to look at the way the points distribution went, or the points production went for Montreal later in that series against the Buffalo Sabres. Obviously Lane Hudson, by the way, is on a 6-game point streak. So he's going to be up there as far as, series points leader. Lane Hudson could be in the mix. He's going to be up there. He's on a 6-game point streak for Montreal. But, you had guys like Zach Bolduc really start to chip in a little bit down the stretch. Nick Suzuki had points in 7 of the last 10 games in that series. Here's one, too, on the blue line for Carolina. Gostisbehere could be an offensive factor from the blue line, obviously, for Carolina in this series. Sean Walker at times can be, but of all people, K'Andre Miller actually enters this series on a 3-game point streak for the Carolina Hurricanes. He got points in each of the last 3 games in the Philadelphia series. He has points in 4 of the last 5 playoff games and 7 of the last 10 playoff games. So a little bit of a sneaky under-the-radar point producer from the blue line for Carolina has been K'Andre Miller. So something to keep in mind. So the points market, series-long points market, seeing that, I got involved with K'Andre as far as the points market here for this Eastern Conference final. I'm just going to look it up one more time just to show you what tell you which price and number I got. But I thought, with what we saw from him against Philadelphia, a bit of an ability to produce as far as point production throughout that series, that I thought, it would be worth a look here as far as this series is concerned, as far as him getting on the board and getting, being able to register a few more points. So, with K'Andre Miller, unfortunately, Bet365, the minimum is 5 points with the points props, but K'Andre Miller at a big price I thought was worth a look there. FanDuel, I'm looking at it right now as far as points with, let me just see what it is here as I go on down the list. You know what? They don't actually, you know what? I thought they would have Miller posted. They don't. That's interesting. I don't see K'Andre Miller posted there, but so in that case, you probably are going to have to go individual games if you're going to be backing K'Andre Miller with the point props. But you're right, just the series long point prop for him, he doesn't seem to be available or posted at either Bet365 or FanDuel at the moment. Not from what I'm. Oh, there we go. Oh, I've got it now. It says actually 5 points at plus 360. At Bet365. There you go. 5 points plus 360 at Bet360. That's worth a small sprinkle. In my opinion. 5 points or more. K'Andre Miller is at plus 360 at Bet365. So there we go. I don't know about most points in the series, Robert. I think that's getting a little adventurous, but I don't think that's going to happen. But it is a big price, but more so, 5 points plus 360, worth a small shot. But the main ones here that I like, I mentioned it, Stankoven, Hall, Blake for goals in the series. Also with all these players I've mentioned, Stankoven, Hall, Blake, Newhook, Demidov, I'm also on them to be the leading goal scorer in the series. Make sure you shop around with those prices as far as a leading goal scorer, most goals in the series. As far as that is concerned, I know I'll just use Bet365. Stankoven's plus 500 to be the leading goal scorer in the series. I've got a piece of that going into this series. Plus 500 at Bet365, plus 440 at FanDuel. Newhook plus 1,000 at Bet365, plus 1,600 at FanDuel, which is where I bet it because it was just a better price there. Plus 1,600 for Alex Newhook, leading goal scorer in the series. Taylor Hall plus 1,200 at FanDuel, plus 2,500 for leading goal scorer at Bet365. Jackson Blake plus 1,800 at Bet365, but only plus 1,100 at FanDuel. So there is those price discrepancies once again. So keep that in mind. Benji liking Jordan Staal most goals here for the Carolina Hurricanes in this series. I mean, he's definitely capable of producing. Not saying it can't happen. I'm just sticking more to the players that have been getting it done. Who's been bringing home the bacon offensively, production-wise here for Carolina in these playoffs? And for the most part, it's been Hall, Stankoven, Blake. So I like them. Demidov, of course, Newhook. Those are the main ones that I'm involved with as far as most goals, leading goal scorer in the series when it comes to Montreal and Carolina. I think that's about it as far as series-long props. I think I have a couple smaller ones as well. I'll have those included with the Patreon daily card post later today when we post the card for the series and the Game 1 bets from both me and Alex as well. But we'll move on now to Game 1 specifically. 8 p.m. Eastern tonight, Montreal, Carolina. We've got Carolina minus 200 home favorites, 5.5 the total here in Game 1 tonight. Now, here's the thing with Carolina and the 12-day layoff. The layoff didn't seem to bother them against Philly, right? You know, and they won that game. I think they shut out Philadelphia Game 1 against the Flyers after the long layoff that they had following sweeping the Ottawa Senators. But that layoff was 7 days. This is almost double that. This is a 12-day layoff that they have had. 12 days since they played Game 4 against the Philadelphia Flyers. Now, again, they didn't look rusty. They didn't look, a step behind. They didn't look like they weren't sharp, to begin Game 1 against Philadelphia after the 1 week layoff. That being said, I think, this is a little different. This 12 days. Then you flip it around to Montreal too, and you actually combine the fact that Carolina looked okay Game 1 against Philly with the fact that we also saw Montreal off a 7-game series against the Tampa Bay Lightning have to play Game 1 against Buffalo, exactly 2 days of rest in between, just like they are here tonight against Carolina, 2 days rest after winning a Game 7. Same thing with the way it was the same way for Montreal after they beat Tampa in 7, 2 days rest, and then they had to play Buffalo in Game 1. They lost Game 1 to Buffalo, though, 4-2, and they gave up the first 2 goals of that game in that Game 1 against Buffalo, following the 7th game against Tampa Bay. So if you actually look at it, Carolina has, against Philly, didn't show that the layoff bothered them, whereas Montreal, after 7 grueling, tough, hard-fought games against Tampa Bay and having to turn around and play Buffalo, they were able to get and they were able to get the job done. Or they weren't able to get the job done. 4-2, they lost Game 1 to Buffalo. So with the long layoff, Carolina got it done against Philly in Game 1. Off the 7-game series against Tampa, Game 1 of the next series, Montreal was not able to get it done. So maybe that points you to Carolina tonight here in Game 1. But I think we have to remember, too, like I said, this is almost double the amount of time off between games that Carolina's got here tonight compared to after the Ottawa series when they played Game 1 against Philadelphia. That is something you do have to factor in. Not to mention, too, Freddie Anderson. We ridiculed him, and rightfully so. People saying I was too harsh on Freddie Anderson during the season is a bunch of nonsense. He deserved every fucking bit of the criticism. He was terrible. He was a sieve. He was a horrific goalie for the majority of the regular season, Frederik Anderson. So I don't want to hear this from anybody saying I was too harsh on Frederik Anderson during the regular season. He deserved the criticism. He sucked. He wasn't any good much of the season. Did he have a few good games here and there? Yes, he did. But he did not play well for the majority of the regular season. We're going to give him his praise now, though. Like I said, I'm an equal opportunity observer and commenter. When you're playing well, you'll hear about it. When you're not playing well, you'll also hear about it from me. And Frederik Andersen, to his credit, was able to flip the switch, dial it in when the Stanley Cup playoffs started, and he's played great in the playoffs here for the Carolina Hurricanes and in the first two rounds against Ottawa and Philadelphia. But Montreal does throw a little bit more weaponry at you offensively. They have more of it than Ottawa. They have certainly more of it than Philadelphia. So how does Carolina deal with that, especially the first period tonight? How do they deal with it? It's going to be a change in speed, a change in pace, a change in how quickly the puck moves with Montreal compared to what they saw with Ottawa and certainly compared to what they saw with Philadelphia. How quickly does that adjustment take the Carolina Hurricanes? That's going to be the interesting part. I think it will affect them a little bit early, that it may take just some bit of time. Maybe not a whole game, maybe just the first 10 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe into the second period before they say, whoa, this team's really moving the puck and skating a lot faster. It's not just skating speed that Montreal's quicker than Ottawa or Philly. It's decision-making speed. It's puck movement speed. It's how to make a play type of speed and just deciphering what you're seeing in a quick, amount of time within a split second or two. So that's the kind of thing that Carolina may take an extra, because the one thing you have to do to break down this great Carolina defense is you have to move the puck quicker than they can set up to block the shot and that kind of thing. And you also have to have the puck. That's another thing too. Montreal's going to have to make good puck decisions here in this series. And in order to have the puck in this series, and another thing too, their face-off prowess is significant. With Carolina being such a puck possession dominant team, face-off prowess is going to need to be paramount for Montreal to be competitive and win this series. You've got to win face-offs, because if you win more face-offs, you're going to have the puck more. And the more you have the puck, the more you're going to be able to actually make something happen against this Carolina Hurricanes team. So that's why it's going to be very important for Montreal. And there'd be some games in the Buffalo series where they were terrific in the face-off dot with their face-off win percentage, and there'd be games in that series where it wasn't nearly as good. But that is going to be a very important element here for Montreal in this series. All right, so with that in mind, it looks like as far as the lineups go here for game one tonight, I mean, I don't expect much change, if any, from Rod Brindamore, since the team's 8-0. I expect him to run out, Svechnikov, Aho, Jarvis, line 1, Hall, Stankoven, Blake, line 2, although you can pretty much call them line 1 based on the first line, the way they've played so far. Ehlers, Stahl, Martinuk, Carrier, William Carrier, Mark Jankowski, my fellow Dundas, Ontario man, of course, and Eric Robinson, Jacob Slavin, Jalen Chatfield, Keandre Miller, Sean Walker, Shane Gostisbehere, Alexander Nikishin, the defense pairs, and, of course, Freddie Anderson and net. Montreal coming off a Game 7 win against Buffalo. I don't expect massive changes from that winning lineup. Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, Uri Slavkovsky, your top line. Alex Newhook, Jake Evans, who, by the way, if you can find Jake Evans props, those might be worth a small look, especially the point prop here in this series, or series-long props on Evans. It's a smaller bet for me, but I know I dabbled in some of those series-long point props for Evans as well. Newhook, Evans, Demidov, the second line, Texier, Deneau, Anderson, the third line, Zach Bolduc, Oliver Kapanen, who, of course, entered the lineup again in Game 7 against Buffalo, and Doc, the fourth line, Matheson, Alexander Carrier, Lane Hudson, Noah Dobson, Caden Gooley, Jaden Struble on the blue line, and, of course, Jakub Dobish in net here. Here's how I'm approaching Game 1. I think you're going to see it be sloppy, especially early. Let's not lose sight of the fact that 7-0 is the current run for first period overs in Montreal games. Every first period over cashed against Buffalo. Now, I know Carolina in their first two rounds, we've seen obviously them play tight checking, low scoring hockey, and I think as this series goes on, they're going to have a better idea, not a better idea of how to defend Montreal. They have the idea in their head. It's being able to execute that defensive plan on the ice right away initially here in game one. That's where I think there could be some trouble for Carolina early. Just the adjustment of being off 12 days and going from a pair of plotters, let's be honest, a pair of plotters, Ottawa and Philadelphia, as opponents compared to Montreal. That's going to be the difference here. And I think there could be an adjustment early. So, and when you're off that long, there could be that one, we've been off for 12 days. There's that brain fart. There's that screw up. There's that defensive miscue with the puck, and it ends up in the back of the net. Not to mention Freddie Anderson, for as great as he's been, and he's been great. He's been absolutely great in the playoffs. No one's going to deny that. But he hasn't played in a game in between the pipes for a while. He could be susceptible to that soft goal early. Not saying he's going to give up a soft goal, or just, when you haven't felt the puck this long as a goaltender in a game situation, you could be vulnerable early in a situation like this. So in this game tonight, we're getting a little bit creative. We're getting a little bit creative here as far as what we're going to do. I'm on the first period over. I'm going to sprinkle just a little bit on the Montreal, not the money line, the team total for Montreal over two, and it's cheap. It's over 2.5. But what I really, really like in this game, for sure, it's the number one side or total bet for me in this game. It's not even close to a debate that this is what I like the most tonight in this game as far as a side or total. I like Montreal goal in the first period. I think it's a spectacular bet. And I don't want to have to worry about Carolina with that great home environment at Lenovo Center, maybe putting a goal or two on the board themselves in the first period against Montreal, who, by the way, I want to remind everybody, Montreal gave up 2 goals in the first 10 minutes of game 1 against Buffalo in the last round, coming off of game 7. Keep that in mind. Off game 7 against Tampa Bay, Montreal was staggered early in game 1 against Buffalo, and they gave up those quick 2 goals early in that game. So I'm worried that Carolina maybe does the same. So that is why I want nothing to do with Montreal first goal, first period. I'm not touching that tonight. No, not a chance, because I'm worried it could be 1-0 Carolina, 2-0 Carolina, and then Montreal gets their goal in the first 20 minutes. But I think it's going to be a chaotic start. I really do. I think you're going to see goals early here in this game. Carolina just having to deal with all of a sudden Montreal. Like I said, just a faster opponent, quicker opponent, a little bit more of a dynamic, drive the pace type of team compared to the Ottawa Senators or the Philadelphia Flyers. And I think you could see that come into play early on here tonight. So the price on Montreal, goal in the first period, because obviously you're talking about them being a plus 170 underdog here in game 1, Carolina minus 200 favorite, you're getting a great price on it. You don't have to lay an expensive price. It's minus 112 at FanDuel. It's minus 112 at FanDuel. I think that's to me, that's the best bet in this game. It's Montreal first goal in the first period, just to score a goal in the first period, minus 112. I think they do. I think it's just that first period, there's going to be, an adjustment for Carolina to get used to Montreal. What I'm also going to do, you talk about getting creative here. I've got Montreal goal in the first period by itself, obviously, just for Montreal to get on the board in the opening 20 minutes. And another thing that backs that up, Montreal's played 14 playoff games, obviously in the first 2 rounds, 2 7-game series. Do you know how many times in those 14 games that the Montreal Canadiens scored a goal in the first period? Do you know how many times it happened in the 14 games so far that they played here in the postseason? 12. 12 of the 14 playoff games for the Montreal Canadiens, they have scored a goal in the first period. So we basically have a 12-2 betting angle here in the Stanley Cup playoffs for Montreal goal in the first period tonight at minus 112. One more time. 12 of 14 playoff games against Buffalo and Tampa Bay combined, the Montreal Canadiens scored a goal in the first period. 12-2 coming into tonight, game 1. Now, I know this is Carolina. It's a great team, playing amazing hockey right now, no question. But if they're ever going to, and Carolina's been good at keeping teams off the board in the first period, we know that. But if there's ever a game they're finally going to allow, a first period goal here in these playoffs, it's here. Little off, just a little bit, not a step slow, but when it's this long, 12 freaking days since you last played, your reaction time does suffer a little bit, and it could tonight in the early going. So it is Montreal goal in the first period, -112. I'm on the first period over. I'm on the both teams to score in the first period. I'm on the over 5.5 too, over trifecta for me, but I don't like the over 5.5 as much. This could be goals aplenty early, and then it just slows down, because that's actually kind of what happened with Philadelphia, Carolina game 1. Carolina got the 2-0 lead, and then now they basically sat on it. It won't be, they're going to try to do that, obviously, with a lead to some extent, or at least play a controlled game like they did against Ottawa and Philly. They'll try to do that here against Montreal when they have the lead. But like I said, I'm definitely more bullish on the goals happening early here in game 1 as opposed to later in the game. So I am on the 5.5 as well, over 5.5, -120 for the full game. But I just like the first period scoring more. I like the first period over more than the full game over. I like both teams to score in the first period more than the over 5.5 full game. And I really, really like Montreal goal in the first period at -112. And what I'm also going to do here pregame is I've got Montreal goal in the first period. I have parlayed that with Carolina money line. Okay? Montreal goal in the first period, Carolina money line, parlayed together, +206. I love that value. Love it. Love that value. I think it's got a real chance to hit, because I love Montreal getting on the board in the first period, but I could easily see Carolina still winning this hockey game when it's all said and done, especially after maybe they shake the cobwebs out of their system after that first period. I think that's a real sound look there. Montreal goal in the first period, Carolina money line, parlay, +206 at FanDuel. Let me see what the price is at Bet365 on that. I don't think it's as good. I don't think it will be as good, because Montreal's -140 there to score a goal in the first period. And let me see, with the money line, +200. Not much of a difference, but still getting just a little bit better at FanDuel with that. So again, that's Montreal goal in the first period, Carolina money line, parlay, +206. Like it for sure. And then as far as props for the game, I already mentioned, a lot of the players that I'm on series long props with, they're players I like tonight. As far as goal, assist, points, Ivan Demidov for Montreal, Alex Newhook for Montreal. They're all players I'm interested in as far as getting on the board. Obviously for Carolina, Taylor Hall, goal assist, Jackson Blake, goal assist, Logan Stankoven, goal assist for all three of those, or you could bet the point prop. But with a lot of these, with those three players, I often like to go with the goal assist split rather than just the point prop because of that. So keep that in mind. Yeah, Carolina team total over. I think if that's something I would look at, Robert, for sure. Like if you want to bet Carolina on their own tonight, I think there's probably a good chance that if they win this game, they score 4 goals. They're capable of it. Now, they didn't always do that. Let's keep in mind that they're 8-0 in the playoffs. They only scored 4 goals in 2 of their 8 playoff wins, if you can believe it. Only 2 of their 8 playoff wins against Philadelphia and Ottawa, only in 2 of those 8 playoff wins did Carolina score 4 goals. All the other games, they scored 3 or fewer. But this is going to be, Montreal is going to try to inflict a much different level of pace on the Carolina Hurricanes in this series. Keep that in mind. So, that could lead to Carolina having to score, 4 goals or more, at least more in this series than they had to against either Ottawa or Philadelphia in the first round. So, like I said, do keep that in mind. As far as shots on goal, Taylor Hall's gone over 2.5 shots in 3 straight games going back to last round. Seth Jarvis, he's gone over 2.5 shots on goal, 3 straight games going back to the last round. Sean Walker, Carolina, he's gone over 1.5 shots on goal, 3 straight games. Jacob Slavin, Carolina, over 1.5 shots on goal, right around even money. We know Jacob Slavin usually for his great defending, closing the gap, giving you no time and space, being elite on the penalty kill. But he's actually gone over 1.5 shots on goal, Jacob Slavin, in 3 straight games for Carolina. We've got Uri Slavkovsky and Andrei Svechnikov, who have both gone over 2.5 shots on goal in 2 straight games. Alex Newhook has gone over 1.5 shots on goal in 2 straight games, as has the captain of the Carolina Hurricanes, Jordan Staal, over 1.5 shots on goal in 2 straight games as well. I mentioned the point props. Lane Hutson's on a 6-game point streak for the Montreal Canadiens. K'Andre Miller on a 3-game point streak for the Carolina Hurricanes. As far as goals coming into this series, Newhook, 3 of the last 5. He's scored. Of course, Stankoven's been great. No question about that. And then, of course, blocked shots. We have Lane Hutson, actually, 2 straight games over 1.5 blocked shots for him going into this series. And I think by default, because it's Carolina at home, the puck possession dominant team they are, the high volume shooting team, the high volume shots on goal team that they are, that by default, if you're going to bet a saves prop over tonight, it's probably got to be Jakub Dobeš for Montreal over 28.5 saves, which he has gone over, by the way, believe it or not, only 4 of the last 10 games for Jakub Dobeš has he gone over his saves prop. But 28.5 is the number. Keep that in mind. And he's actually, his head-to-head percentage, Jakub Dobeš going over saves prop against Carolina is a little bit higher than maybe against certain other opponents. So I still think, if you're going to look at Jakub Dobeš over saves, you could go in that direction tonight. There you have it for Game 1, Montreal and Carolina. I am not betting a money line side pregame. Remember, we have the betcast tonight at 8:00 p.m. Eastern for our Patreon members. So we're going to get to make some decisions live during the game. But a lot of my stuff is in that first period. The both teams to score first period, I think, is really live tonight. Over 1.5 in the first period, I think, is really live tonight. And also Montreal goal in the first period, which is something I like. You know what I'm also going to do tonight? I mentioned the first 10 minutes market before. I'm seeing a goal in the first 10 minutes right now at Bet365 is -140. Let me see what it is right now at FanDuel. Goal in the first 10 minutes. Let me see. -140 there as well. I'm going to wait for that to drop a bit. We'll be on the betcast tonight. I'm going to wait for that to drop a little bit and bet that closer to even money. I always say -120 or better is usually the price I'm looking at with live bets. So I'm going to wait for that to drop to -120 or better. Goal in the first 10 minutes, gift, as Addison, the gift master of the Ice Guys show, as we like to call him. I'm also going to dabble pregame on goal in the first 5 minutes, which is +186 at FanDuel. +186, goal in the first 5 minutes. I could clearly see a goal that quickly here tonight because I think the 12-day layoff really is the layoff that could get Carolina at least early. 7 days, credit to them. It didn't bother them. They swept Ottawa. They had the 7 days off, and they came out and they, basically controlled and dominated Philly in Game 1. But 2 things about that. Number 1, this is a much longer layoff. This is almost double the amount of days off between series than from the Ottawa to the Philly series. And number 2, Montreal is a more dangerous offensive opponent than Philly or Ottawa. And if you make a mistake or 2 early in the game, you live to tell about it in Game 1 against Philly, you may not hear. You're going to maybe see that puck go in against you. So a couple of things to factor in. So I think there's a chance. And look, Carolina could be the team to get on the board first tonight. Very good possibility still. So like I said, goal in the first 5 minutes, +186. I'm interested in that. I'll bet that pregame. And we'll wait for the goal in the first 10 minutes to get to minus 120 or better during the betcast tonight. And at that time, we'll bet that as well. All right, great stuff. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. Looking forward to this game one tonight between Montreal and Carolina. It's a very intriguing game. There's so many great questions that we're going to get answered here tonight. 12 days off for Carolina. How do they manage it? Carolina just absolutely steamrolling so far in the playoffs. Does the layoff hurt them, or is it all systems go? No problem at all. And they just keep on rolling along, and maybe they, 4-1, 4-2 type of win. No fuss, no muss tonight. So, like I said, fascinating viewing experience tonight. Carolina with the long layoff, and Montreal rather, coming off their second straight 7-game series, jumping into another new series against, by far, I think, the toughest team they've played so far. And that's all due respect to Buffalo and Tampa. But with the way Carolina's playing, this is the toughest team Montreal's played. The way they've just been so stout defensively. They've been excellent on the penalty kill. They've been very, very opportunistic offensively. They carry the flow. They don't let you have the puck for a lot of the game. How does Montreal deal with this kind of opponent compared to Buffalo and Tampa Bay? Tons of great questions about the game tonight. Looking forward to it on the betcast. And speaking of the betcast, another reminder, 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. Make sure you join us. Patreon exclusive live betcast. Looking forward to it. Game 1, Montreal, Carolina, Eastern Conference Final, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern. And to be on that betcast and watch the betcast, you must be a Patreon member. So make sure you get on board. $10 per month. Patreon.com/Ice Guys. Goalie charts, totals charts, daily betting card, sides, totals, player props posted each and every day on the Patreon page. And, of course, access to tonight's betcast. We'll have another one for our Patreon members, another betcast next week for one of the games during the Western Conference Final. So make sure you check that out. $10 per month. Your membership goes a long way to supporting the show and keeping it going long term. So join us for the betcast tonight. And to do that, get on board for just $10 per month at patreon.com/Ice Guys. Of course, wizardsportspicks.com. Check out the website. NHL playoffs, NBA playoffs, MLB on a daily basis. Still number one ranked in the NHL at wizardsportspicks.com and having a profitable NBA season as well. CFL coming up. So check out wizardsportspicks.com. And, of course, the Ice Guys store. Get your gear and your merch over at the Ice Guys store. That's at iceguys.myspreadshop.com. Robert, that's a solid point that you make about Eric Robinson. He is someone that keeps showing up in the expected goals category, high up on the expected goals so far in the playoffs for Carolina, especially in that Philadelphia series. He has had looks. He has had chances. It just hasn't gone in for him yet. He'd be someone to maybe keep an eye on here in this series because there may be, the one thing about Montreal is that times they'll give you open ice, and he might be someone that is able to maybe make more of an offensive impact. He's had the chances, but the puck just hasn't gone in for Eric Robinson yet for Carolina. We'll see if that changes here tonight and in this series in the Eastern Conference Final. And Alex is in the chat. Good to see him. He will be with us for the betcast tonight. Just waiting for his new headset to arrive, but we'll have Alex with us for the betcast tonight as well. All right, bargain bin special of the night and best bets coming up right after we hear from our great Ice Guys sponsors.
Wizard Sports Picks, featuring the finest handicappers in the universe. Sharp insights, trusted picks, and relentless results. We strive to help you become consistent winners. This is Wizard Sports Picks.
Please for yourself with my love is
All right, bargain bin special of the night. We had one last night. Brett Howden. This guy deserves a fucking Christmas card. I'm telling you. I'm going to have to find out where the hell he lives and just send a Christmas card saying, thanks for all the bargain bin winners, Brett. Appreciate it. But yeah, Brett Howden for Vegas again, plus 370. Absolutely a tremendous as far as just cashing multiple bargain bin special winners with him. We'll see what we've got for an encore tonight. Once again, and we're going to do this for the rest of the playoffs. I'm going to give you one player from each team for a bargain bin special of the night. We did that last night with Game 1 in the Western Conference Final. We're going to do that tonight here in the Eastern Conference Final as well. Alex already sent his card, so I will mention it. He's got 2 bargain bin specials here for Game 1 tonight. Both of them are Carolina Hurricanes. He's got Keandre Miller to find the back of the net. Keandre Miller to score a goal, plus 950 for Keandre Miller for Carolina to find the back of the net. Heck of a price. And we did mention he's on a 3-game point streak for the Hurricanes entering this series. So Keandre Miller, Carolina, plus 950 for Alex. And his other bargain bin special of the night is Logan Stankoven, who's been probably the best scorer in the playoffs so far, goal scorer in the playoffs for Carolina, to get the first goal of the game at plus 1,300. So there you go. Logan Stankoven, first goal, plus 1,300. And Keandre Miller, goal, plus 950 for Alex B. Smith with his 2 bargain bin specials for this Game 1. For me, bargain bin special of the night, we're going to start with for Montreal. And I'm going to, like I said, I like him in the series to make an impact. Plus 375, the best price out there for him to score tonight. Ivan Demidov for Montreal, plus 375 for my Montreal bargain bin special of the night for this Game 1 in the Eastern Conference Final. And my bargain bin special of the night for Carolina here tonight in Game 1. I am going to go with Jackson Blake. Jackson Blake, man, I think I love the way he's played in these playoffs. That whole line's great. But Jackson Blake, we can get him exactly right on the button at plus 300 at Pinnacle. We will go with that. Just barely gets there for bargain bin special, but plus 300. Jackson Blake, and for Carolina, along with Ivan Demidov at plus 375 for Montreal for my 2 bargain bin specials for this Thursday Eastern Conference Final, Game 1. All right, best bets. We'll start with Alex. His best bet is Montreal, Carolina, first period, over 1.5, minus 108. That is his best bet, and I like that bet too. Makes a lot of sense. I think we're going to see maybe some chaos early, some goals early. Maybe it slows down after that, but I do think we have a great chance to see first period over. Keep in mind, first period over cashed in Game 1 of Carolina's series against Philadelphia. You remember Game 1 of that series? First period over cashed after the long layoff against Ottawa. We saw Montreal-Buffalo Game 1 with Montreal coming off a 7-game series. They gave up 2 quick goals, and I think it was 2-1 after the first period. So we saw Carolina and Montreal in Game 1 in the second round easily hit the first period over in both of their Game 1s. So Alex is going with first period over. And my best bet for tonight, I already mentioned it. I think I mentioned it earlier that, to me, it was the best bet on the board here for Game 1 side or total. And I'm going to go with Montreal goal in the first period, minus 112 at FanDuel. Great price. I think they get on the board in the first 20 minutes. And the stat that does it for me, 12 of Montreal's 14 playoff games this year, they have scored a goal in the first period. So that's 12-2 goal in the first period for the Montreal Canadiens here in this year's playoffs. So Montreal goal in the first period, minus 112. That is going to be my best bet for Game 1 here in the Eastern Conference Final. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. One last reminder, betcast tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern, Patreon exclusive. Make sure you join us. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. I'm Ian Cameron. We'll see you in a few hours at 8 p.m. Eastern for the live betcast for Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final, and back with you tomorrow on Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern for another edition of the Ice Guys.